Hello and welcome to a Walking the Earth podcast, a podcast about the backpacking experience. My name is Justin Castle, calling in from New York City, New York.
And I'm Mike Margulies, today calling in from Bangkok, Thailand. And our guest today is Brook Silva-Braga, calling in from Washington, D.C. area. Brook, how's it going, man?
Good to be on with you guys.
Awesome having you, dude. So Brook is actually the creator, director of several travel documentaries. The one that folks probably know him most for is A Map for Saturday, which I think is actually one of the best backpacking documentaries I've seen that kind of really captures the backpacking experience. Also a couple other more recent ones, One Day in Africa and The China Question. But yeah, I think I actually just rewatched A Map for Saturday last night, and I was again kind of struck by how awesome of a job that documentary does at really showing what the backpacker experience is like. You know, that's I gotta tell you, Brook, man, when I'm talking to friends back home and I want to explain to them, oh, you know, what's it like for me, I just say you have to watch A Map for Saturday and you'll understand what it's like for me.
Yeah, thanks a lot. That when it first came out, a few people said that to me, and that was about the best feedback, like the most encouraging feedback I ever got, because I was worried that maybe by making something, I don't know, you've probably seen this, when people try to make something for a general audience, sometimes the like diehard audience thinks it like isn't cool, or if you make something for a diehard audience, the like general audience, you know, can't quite get it. So I was always worried that like I would be caught in that trap, but thankfully it seems like I somehow avoided it.
Yeah, you're right. It's hard to kind of please everyone to get something that the backpacker is going to say that's it, and then the people who are not backpackers watch it and say, oh yeah, okay, I get it. But I don't know. Yeah, I would say you nailed it. And I don't know, there's so many aspects to it. Maybe to me the thing that was the most key was the relationship aspect to backpacking, and that's just not with opposite sex relationships, same just friend relationships, any kind of the whole deal. This whole thing of when you're backpacking, first of all, you're making friends so much faster because everyone's in this boat where, okay, well, I have no choice. I've got to make friends. And then they also end really a lot faster. You know, you have a beginning and an end, and then boom, you go your separate ways and go on. You kind of have to get good at saying goodbye. Sort of thing.
For sure. And that's something that as I was taking the trip and started like cutting together all this footage I was shooting, I was like about the last person to realize that was the theme of the documentary I was making. It was only like really late on in the process. I actually, I showed a really early cut of it to my previous boss. I had worked at HBO before, and he watched it with his, I think, like 13-year-old daughter, that early cut. And then he came back to me and said, you know what my daughter said? She said his documentary isn't about these places he went at all. It's really only about the people he met. And that didn't even occur to me to be obviously true, but it was. And I think it is also true in both positive and I think in some cases, like even regrettable ways about backpacking, that it really does become way more about whoever your friend is that day than what the backdrop of the place is.
Right.
I couldn't possibly agree with you more.
And I feel like it was kind of inspiration for, I don't know if it was direct inspiration, but we were doing this podcast for a while where it was Michael and I talking, and I guess it was Michael's epiphany more than my epiphany that he said, whoa, this is way too much about me and where I'm going, and I don't want to talk about myself anymore. I'm meeting these awesome people. And that's what our podcast has evolved into, is asking people their journey, who are they, and how are we interacting with them? How did our lives cross? And I guess ours crossed with an email from Mike. I think that's where it got started.
Absolutely. No, that's actually really.
But the other thing, it's not just like everyone or many people have interesting stories. When you meet people on the road, more times than not, whether their life is interesting or not, that moment in their life is interesting because they're off doing this strange thing that they probably weren't doing before that is almost certainly more exciting than what they're going to do next. So you like meet them at this time where they're like probably more alive than they are most of like the rest of their time.
Yeah, backpacking is like life on crack, kind of. Life just happens so much faster. It's so much more dense, while you're backpacking. I mean, like you said in the movie, right? Every day is Saturday. So if you're, when I was home and I was working, I kind of felt like, so my stories I would talk to people about would be from the weekend. On the weekend, on Saturday, something would happen, and then the next week I'd say, hey, this is the cool thing that happened to me recently. But while you're out here and you're backpacking, if every day is Saturday, it's sort of like that is happening every single day. And it's happening to everyone else around you every single day. So it's just this super dense amount of experience. And along with that, when you meet someone new, normally to spend, say, 48 hours of time with a person, it's going to take you several weeks of elapsed time before you get to that deep of a level with someone. But backpacking, you might meet someone and you spend the first 48 hours that you meet them with them. So you just like get to know people so much faster. And that's, I think that was also kind of like highlighted in MAP. And I think it's just so true.
He quotes you so much, he says map. So I'm sure you may or may not have used that.
I like the shorthand.
Yeah, I think I picked it up from you on some email exchange or something. You called it map. I said, oh, that's a nice way.
Oh, okay. Oh, wait, so this originated from you, Brook.
Okay, I'll take the credit/blame.
That's a good one.
Yo, check out map, bro.
Yeah, I also,
as long as people can find their way to the correct URL, you can call it whatever you want.
Yeah, exactly. But I guess other things that I really I'm looking forward to now. We were just talking right before we started recording. So right now it's mid-April here in Thailand. So coming up is the Songkran Festival. So actually, I'd be curious to hear. I saw some clips in the movie. It's basically it's the New Year in Thailand, and it's a giant water fight. So I'm going to go to Chiang Mai in just a few days to celebrate this. So you were already there. Is it as awesome as it looks?
Yeah, it's awesome. It's intense. I actually did another Songkran in Chiang Mai more recently when I was shooting that other documentary you mentioned, The China Question, in, I guess, 2010. And I was
sweet.
like, it's like Songkran time. And I actually met my mom, of all people, in Chiang Mai. and we did Songkran together. And it's totally full on. Actually, in A Map for Saturday, if I'm not mistaken, and it's been a bunch of years now, I think that was right before Songkran proper started. It was like right on the beginning, like either the first day or the day before, because I was up against some deadline. I think I had to go to India or something, and I just had to go the day I had to go. But in Chiang Mai, so some of that was in Bangkok, and it happens in Bangkok, especially like around Khao San Road and the more touristy areas.
Right.
But Chiang Mai is totally full on. It's really intense, because the thing is, you're supposed to be washing away people's sins so they can't
Is that
get
why they do
upset. Yeah, that's the premise of this exercise.
Oh. So it's an excuse for a water fight.
You can't get upset at people for putting the water on you because they're doing you the solid of washing away your sins. However,
right.
At some point you don't want to get wet. At some point you have no more dry clothes, but there's nothing you can do about it. And so you spend like your whole day getting people wet, even though they're whining about it. And then at some point during your day, you become that guy. And
right.
You're annoyed that you're getting drenched. And you're not getting a little wet. It's like you were in a shower for 10 minutes wet.
Right, like you
so
jumped in
it's
a pool.
just bizarre and fun and cool. And I hope, because this will be 4 years after I went in 2010, I hope it's not played out. Because in 2010, it was just on the edge of getting played out, and it was like a whole lot of foreigners and not that many Thai people doing it.
Oh, interesting. I hope I sure hope there's locals that are doing it. That's, it's a big part of the experience, obviously. But yeah, that you mentioned, it is because Chiang Mai is the place that people know about for Songkran. I guess there is some possibility that it's going to be a whole bunch of tourists there. Well, it'll be a fun experience, I suppose.
It will be for sure.
how did your mom take it? Just getting buckets of water dumped on her.
She was into it. My mom, one of my like early childhood memories is going to the beach, and she would like fill a bucket with water and very slowly say, "It's time for the big water fight," and then she'd throw a bucket of water on me. Now I was like a 2, 3, 4-year-old kid. This actually was like a formative, traumatizing experience in my life that I was like, there's nothing I can do. I don't want to get soaked. It was kind of like, I guess, early Songkran. So my mom was the perfect person to come with me and now get drenched.
Yeah. So you had your Songkran training wheels from a very early age.
Exactly. We were in coastal Rhode Island doing our Songkran prep.
Nice.
So if this was like a traumatic experience growing up, did Songkran, was this sort of like, did it bring back the memories?
So dramatic.
So dramatic. You're gonna flashbacks of when you were younger.
Is this like your like Dr. Phil question? You're like trying to deeply delve into the psyche. I don't remember being that traumatized.
We're trying to psyche of Brook Silva-Braga.
Yeah, man. Tell me your deepest secrets now.
These are the deep, dark secrets that cause a man to throw it all away and go backpacking.
Yeah. My mom, she wet me when I was young with a pail of water. I don't know why I got that accent in there, but it just slipped right in.
That's quite the Rhode Island accent.
Yeah.
You've been to Rhode Island. I'm guessing maybe not.
I lived in Massachusetts for a whopping year, but I did go through Rhode Island several times. I used to have like a sales territory down there. I touch on Providence. I've been downtown. I've been to some of the beaches, and actually one of our friends used to work in Franklin, Mass, and our friend Justin Schuneck used to work right on the border. So I've been there plenty of times.
Yeah, I guess Southeast Asia and India are a big change from that, huh?
Yeah, for sure.
But from anywhere in the U.S., that was actually another thing. And I don't know if some of this maybe Map for Saturday was, I guess now almost 10 years old, right?
Yeah, so it came out in like 2007, I think, although it didn't air in the U.S. until 2008.
Okay.
But the trip itself, next year will be 10 years, which is nuts.
It's crazy. And what's interesting for me watching it is some of the things are very much the same, like we talked about, like the relationship aspect of it. That is a constant of backpacking experience, and that's still very true. And then some of it I watch and I'm like, oh wow, so much has changed in 10 years. There's this scene where you're calling home from like a payphone or something on Thanksgiving, and I was just thinking to myself, wow, I don't think I've used a phone like that. We have Skype now.
Yeah.
So I don't know if Skype was it may have been around then, but I don't think it was nearly as prevalent.
Wasn't. You know what else wasn't as prevalent? Even Facebook.
Yes.
Well, the internet. There's definitely the internet, but what I ended up with was like a whole bunch of email addresses, not a bunch of Facebook friends.
Right. Facebook is a game changer, man. Because I think probably when you were backpacking in 2005, it was probably a lot more difficult to keep in touch with people. Email is nice. You can keep in touch with people, but what Facebook has done, and Facebook gets a lot of crap sometimes. A lot of people are, and it can be abused. People can spend their time just scrolling through their news feed, blah, blah, blah. But I would say it's actually got a really good use as well, because Facebook, it lets you sort of stay in touch with these people. It's a really good means of staying in touch with the folks that you met along the way. And now I find myself sort of meeting up with people that I met previously all the time. Right. So that's it.
That's cool that you're doing that, because I've obviously traveled as well in the Facebook era.
Right.
And I think it's easier to stay in touch with more people. It's definitely way easier. But it doesn't force you to have like the one-to-one communication that email does. So I don't think I stay in as close touch with the people I've met in the Facebook era. The email people, maybe there were fewer of them, but I stay in like what few of them there are in more like real, legitimate, like I'll come visit you if I'm in your city touch, as opposed to like I saw some photos of you.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah. So it was a more of a closer bonds with the email exchange people.
Yeah, I think so.
I that makes a lot of sense actually.
Yeah. And I don't know. I'm just thinking like Michael and I, we talk so frequently. There are parts in the film, A Map for Saturday, where you expressed, I missing for home, a yearning for home, especially in the beginning. As it got further away, it appeared to be, start dissipating. But now Michael and I talk every week, every couple of days on Skype. We FaceTime, whatever. We email constantly. It's like he's not even gone, really. He was living in Texas before he left. Now it's just the same thing, except he's international and he's 11 hours apart. That's the only difference. So
yeah. I mean, I guess.
Hold on a second, though, Michael. I'm curious whether you feel that way, because my vibe is that whole backpacking thing, which we spent the first 5-10 minutes talking about, the getting close to people so quickly and these intense friendships. My feeling has always been that's only possible because of the loneliness. That if it really was no different than staying at home and you could stay in touch with everyone and they're on Skype and I chat with them every other day, then you wouldn't be compelled to create these close friendships that you are when you're so far away from everyone you know.
Right. Yeah, I would say sort of. So yes, Skype is nice, and it has been a game changer as far as being able to stay in touch with people. But that said, even if I'm on a Skype call with Castle or my family more frequently than I may have been able to do 10 years ago, there is still a distance for sure.
Right.
So even with all the technology in the world, I'm still ultimately out here by myself, and I do feel. For sure, more of a distance. I mean, absolutely more of a distance from home than I was. And like you're saying, it does force you, because you're out here alone. You have no choice but to make more friends. I usually haven't felt. There are times where I shouldn't say that. I have felt loneliness at certain points of my trip, though, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Although I've also found that in general, because everyone else is in that same boat, it's just becomes so much easier to make those friends, even if they are the, I guess what you call the 5-hour friends. And I think that is maybe driven by it is definitely driven by the being alone thing. But what's interesting, I guess, also is it's interesting that when you're traveling alone, it's defined still by relationships. Traveling alone is about relationships in a weird kind of way,
No, for sure.
I'm interested, though, actually, now. So you've been a backpacker for 10 years now. Are there other things that you've seen that have changed from when 2005 to nowadays?
I don't know if this is an appropriate quote, but it's one of my favorite quotes, so I'm just going to try and shoehorn it into your question.
Go for it.
Bill Murray was asked how you change when you become famous. And he said, you don't change when you become famous, everyone else does.
Oh, yeah. That's a Joe Walsh song also, isn't it?
Is it? Okay, so maybe
I don't know
he
which
was
one
cribbing
came up
it?
with it first. I have no idea who came up with it first, but yeah. That's a great quote.
So I don't know that backpacking has changed so much as how I interact with it has changed. The first, I went out and traveled for a year straight, and that was super intense. But the 7th, 8th, 9th month of that, you may already be starting to get a little bit of a feeling of this, is way different than the beginning.
Okay.
And then the 3rd, 4th, 5th year, not that I've been out on the road consistently at all, but I've been, doing it here and there for a while. You just become a little bit more grizzled in the things that got you excited about traveling before, or maybe different things after a while than they were in the beginning. Now I would say the thing that most reliably gets me excited when I'm traveling is food.
Okay.
And I would say that probably wasn't the case when I started traveling.
I definitely can relate to that. It's I think it's the stuff that you touched on also, which is, when I went to Luang Prabang, Laos, for example, the thing that is famous there is the waterfall, and I actually didn't even go because it was that feeling of, well, I've seen all these waterfalls. I've been backpacking now for 6 or 7 months. Another waterfall, okay. And it's glorious and it's beautiful, magnificent. But yeah, there is that kind of, that numbness, right, of, okay, yeah, you're not as excited by these things that normally you'd find amazing and awesome as time goes on, sort of. So that I've seen that sort of, yeah.
I was going to say the other thing that which I think is a positive that I think I've changed or tried to change, or maybe it's circumstance, but when I first traveled, especially on that Map for Saturday trip, I spent a really high percentage of my time with other backpackers. And I've tried to cultivate more local friendships as I've traveled, which is way easier because of couch surfing than it was before. And that, I mean, there's no better way to see a place than with someone who lives there.
Absolutely.
And I definitely seek that out more now than I did in the early days.
Yeah, I think for me, it's actually funny. I feel like I hung out with more locals in the beginning of my trip than now, but for me, I think that's a kind of a consequence of where I am, because I started in India, and in India, so many people speak English, and it's so easy, and you don't even try, right? Indians come up to you, and you make friends with Indians, just automatically. Whereas,
so how are you able? Hold on a second. Quick question on that though. How were you able to tell who you were making friends with and who was trying to steal rupees from you? Since most of them were really trying to steal rupees from you.
That's a great question. Actually, I did go through experience. We talked about this on a way earlier episode where I basically got scammed. I had a phone that was broken, and I was trying to get it fixed. And this guy, it was that classic experience in India where. He seemed so friendly and nice, and ultimately he was just scamming me. So you get that for sure in India, but you also get the most beautiful, wonderful, amazing people in the world in India at the same time. So it's
amazing that those same two people live in the same country.
Yeah,
it's some of the nicest people and some of the most unnice people.
Yes.
I guess you can swear on your podcast, but I'm not going to. In the same place.
Speak freely.
You can swear. It's okay. We are a free speech podcast.
We say lots of bad things here.
I heard a quote once that in India, people have their first life and their last life. And I thought that, you captured it. Some of the people there are just the scum of the earth, pieces of shit. And then some of the people that, wow, this person's amazing, selfless, bend over backwards to help me. We actually spent a whole episode talking about this earlier, too.
Yeah.
It's so true, though. India's got to be the most diverse place as far as types of people you meet, that I've seen, at least.
Yep.
So now, Brook, with your travels nowadays, you now have lots of friends, I guess, through Couchsurfing and other resources all across the world that you constantly stay in touch with. Is that how you inspire your trips, or is it more of, me and my girlfriend want to go here now, or what is the inspiration between your travels now?
That is a good question. So for really long trips, usually, and I think this podcast is an interesting example of this. For long trips, I need some kind of project. I can't just go somewhere for like months and end without having some goal, some project, something. So with the first one, it was, I'm going to go travel around the world. I don't really have a documentary idea. I'll just kind of shoot what happens, and that became a Map for Saturday.
Yeah.
And then so since then, my big trips have been more driven by like a documentary idea, where I was like, I've never been to China. I'd love to go to China, and I have a documentary idea. Let's go to China.
I gotcha. Mm-hmm.
So that's a big part of it. I guess either that, or I've done a couple just kind of shorter couple-week winter trips recently. Went to the Philippines, went to Mexico. And they were just kind of parts of the world I hadn't been to that seemed like would be nice to check out.
Gotcha.
And food, like I was saying, I think the food's going to be good. That's more likely to get me there.
And has your girlfriend come along on any trips with you?
Yeah, we did 3 months in China together when we were shooting the China Question. So that was good fun. She's right here in the kitchen trying to quietly eat dinner so as not to disturb our podcasting audience.
You can get a 3-month visa to China? I thought it was like a month. Is there a special visa you got?
No, it was 90 days. I don't know if it's still This was a few years ago, so maybe it's changed. But yeah, we got a 90-day tourist visa to China, and we used like every last day. We used, I think, either 89 or 90 of the days.
Wow, maybe I heard wrong. China's definitely in my future.
China's amazing.
Yeah?
China, although it's so different than America, is actually in some ways so familiar to an American. The size of it is similar. The diversity of geography, and even way of life as you move around the country.
Right.
And it's obviously, like the U.S., like a big and important and powerful country.
Right.
With, like some big metropolitan world capitals and then some really interesting hinterlands. China's just awesome, and the food's great. Highly recommend it.
Awesome.
Yeah, I definitely need to go to China. Probably it's going to be a future trip for me. I feel like there's certain places that are easier. I'm sure you can relate to this, right? Some places are way easier to backpack in than others.
Yeah.
Southeast Asia is pretty well trodden, but India is a more difficult trip than Southeast Asia, and I think in a different way probably, and you can speak to this probably, China's probably more difficult than Southeast Asia.
Yes, but way easier than India.
Oh, yeah?
India's the toughest. I've been a lot of places, and I would say India's the toughest, and I would say parts of Africa are a very close second.
Okay, well that's good to know. So having been through India, I should be able to handle anything at this point.
I honestly think so, yeah.
What about the language barrier though? Because in India, at least, I had that not everyone, but so many people speak English.
Yeah, that's one of the biggest problems in India is that they can talk to you.
Oh.
Right?
It's true. You can get taken.
If they couldn't talk to you, they might not take your money so easy.
That's a good point. Is it hard
in
China?
Language is a problem. But even in China, I mean, yes, it's hard. You gotta work for it a little bit.
Right.
I wouldn't take my first trip, I'm glad my first place I set foot backpacking was Australia. I mean, that's just as easy as it gets, except for it being expensive.
Right.
And then I went to Southeast Asia, which is easy too.
Yeah.
But China, yes, it's hard, but you learn like a handful of important words, and then you have a book that has the characters that have like the names of the foods and the names of the cities, and so when you go to buy your station, you just your ticket, you just point to the name of the city, and you hope they put you on a bus or a train that's going there. And it's like a great adventure. It's like difficult, but like with no real stakes. Like the worst thing that's going to happen is whatever, you end up on the slow bus to Guangzhou.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's hard maybe to communicate, but at the same time, no one's trying to take advantage of you as much.
Yeah, and the people, actually, there's a weird kind of, I don't know if there's a better word for it than racism in China.
Huh.
And as a dark-skinned person, I think China would be much more difficult to travel in. But I went there with my blue-eyed girlfriend, and she was the belle of every ball we walked into.
Right.
They were just like everyone wants to take your picture with you. They want to help you out. And unlike other places where they're helping you out, like India or other parts of the world, they're like legitimately probably trying to help you out and not trying to rip you off.
Yeah.
Right.
Well,
that's comforting.
My friend actually, he's traveled through parts of China, and he's had a very similar experience to what you said. That families, especially in the city, people would stop him on the streets and try to take photos with him. He's a black guy. He's tall. He's very smart. Traveled around the world, and people thought instantly, you're right, very racist. They said, "Oh, you must be a basketball player," and instantly we're taking photos with him. But he said he was actually treated like a rock star on his different trips that he's gone different places. Like people constantly coming up to him, constantly taking photos with him. I didn't hear if there were any negative experiences, but I'm definitely going to ask him next time. But that's a very good
and
point.
actually, I'm super happy to hear that because I've never obviously traveled there as a black person. I didn't even travel with any black people while I was there. But I definitely had the impression. Because the other thing is Chinese people, and this is another way that they're similar to Americans. Actually, they're pretty blunt. They definitely are not politically correct. They're less politically correct than Americans. So they'll just say things that you or I would describe as racist about black people or people of almost any background. They don't hold back those prejudices, and they tended to be more negative towards darker skinned people. But maybe that's not the case if you're actually traveling there.
Right. Yeah. Again, I'm gonna have to check with my friend and see if he had any horror stories. But based on our conversations, and we're pretty close. I haven't. Everything was pretty positive. And one night he even, he ended up on a tabloid somehow. He met he met like some pop star. I don't know if this was in Hong Kong or where not. He met a pop star, wound up going around with them to the VIP, taking shots at different bars, wound up in the tabloids the next day. Like, who's this mystery guy, from America?
That's amazing. So. Oh, I hope he kept a copy of the paper.
Yeah. I'm gonna have to check.
I would frame that.
Definitely.
Brook, man, we won't keep you from your girlfriend for too much longer. I guess we have a question that we ask folks at the end of our show. So basically, and you can feel free to answer any way you'd like, but what is something that you haven't done already that you would like to do before you die?
Oh boy!
Yeah, and
I only get one.
You can.
No,
do as many as you want
to.
Yeah, it doesn't. And don't
think.
Don't think too hard about it. It's just it doesn't have to be the most complicated, most impressive answer in the world. We've had somebody wanted to. Our most recent guest, Christina Jin, said she wanted to ride a shark.
Okay.
Our other friend said that they just wanted to travel and see all 7 continents before they die. It doesn't have to be.
That was me.
Yeah, that was you. Hey, go figure. Yeah, whatever comes to mind.
It could be something you want to do next week if you want.
Oh, because I'm about to have like a pretty old man answer. Are you ready for my old man answer?
Go for it, dude.
I was gonna say raise a family.
Yeah. Nice.
Definitely.
I'd be annoyed if I died before I had a chance to do that.
I'm interested. So for me, I'm now 27, and for me, it's this thing where I'm still feel like I'm a ways away. I'm not, for me, it's like I don't think family's not. I don't even have a girlfriend, much less, fiance, wife, kids, any of that stuff. Did you find that over time that because I know when you made MAP, it seemed like, okay, you were not ready to settle down, any of that stuff. So has that over time just changed for you?
Yeah, I think so. I was never into the checklist thing.
Right. Exactly.
I'm gonna go it's in 2 hours out of my way, but I'm gonna go through Liechtenstein so that I can get say I was in another country.
Right.
Right.
That was just never my thing. But even still, I was really, really, really lucky to travel a lot of places. I don't feel like, I haven't been to Russia. I'd like to go to Russia. If I never make it to Russia, that's cool too. I'm not that exercised about that type of stuff at this point.
Right.
So maybe that's why. And also, let's chat with you in 8 years and see, maybe you'll be finally getting to these places I'm getting. But I think at this point I'm kind of looking at there's some other things to do, and I think also just to get even a little older man on you here. I think it'll be really cool to travel with kids. I think
I've met people doing that.
I've been to Thailand a few times. I've been how cool would it be if I get to go to Thailand with my 10-year-old or something? I think that would be really neat.
Yeah.
Yeah, awesome. I think that. Yeah, I think you nailed it too. It's not about checklists and all these things, and so right. It's kind of, for me at least, it's following that moment. So right now the moment's telling me, travel around. But I think there will be a moment, probably. I mean, we'll chat in 8 years and see. But there'll probably be a moment where I'm like, all right, this is the moment where I kind of stop for a while and settle down, or travel with kids, whatever.
And if I can attempt to use my my documentary storytelling techniques, weak as they are here, it occurs to me that they were ending the podcast on the same theme we started it on, which is it's not about these places, it's about the people. And I think it would be cool to share some of these places with people that are close to me.
Absolutely. Nice.
Well done.
You're a pro at this. It's like it's your job or something.
Well done, Brook. Touche, salesman. Touche.
Yeah. So, Brook, I guess we've mentioned already plenty of times. I'm out for Saturday. probably a lot of people listening to this show may have already seen it, but if you haven't already seen it and you're a backpacker or you are intrigued by backpacking, I can't recommend it highly enough. I've seen it a couple of times now, and I'm like, oh wow, this is it really gets it.
Yeah.
So definitely check that out.
And don't forget the China Question, One Day in Africa. Brook, I believe you said that those are now released on Amazon Instant View. Is that correct?
Yeah, they are. And A Map for Saturday will be on Amazon Instant as well by the summer sometime. It's taken a little longer because the tapes are old, honestly. But yeah, they've all been available on DVD, and obviously a lot of people, especially on the road, are like, hey, I can't watch a DVD, and we've never had a good answer for them except to go and pirate it.
Right.
So now you no longer need to pirate it. You can go to Amazon Instant and rent them for like $4 or something.
I'm going to admit right now that I first got A Map for Saturday. Some other backpacker had it on their computer, and they gave it to me. And I was like, okay, let me watch this. So.
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh.
Well, I
you
think
don't have to do that. That's not the way to do it.
We'll pay it forward by, you can get A Map for Saturday by connecting through our Facebook at facebook.com/Walking the Earth Podcast, and you can get it legitimately through our Facebook and support both Brook and Walking the Earth Podcast at the same time.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Mike.
No, so Amazon, it sounds like, is the best spot for your stuff, Brook.
Yeah, you can get all the DVDs on Amazon as well, or just like find the name of the film and the URL is another way to get the DVD.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Perfect.
Well, Brook, thank you very much.
And actually, so if you do them through the film's website, here's like, for people who make it to the end of the podcast, here's a little tidbit. If you buy them from the film's website, they will be mailed to you by none other than my mother, who used to throw buckets of water on me at the beach.
What's the website? amapforsaturday.com?
Yeah, that's where you get that one, and then thechinaquestion.com, onedayinafrica.com.
Oh, okay, so all the names of the films.com.
Yep.
Perfect.
All right, excellent. Well, thanks, Brook. It's been an honor. It's been a privilege talking with you. We hope to speak with you soon. For those of us listening, feel free to check us out on Twitter, #WTE Podcast, and you can check us on Facebook, facebook.com/Walking the Earth Podcast. Stitcher. Have I missed anything, Michael?
Facebook, Twitter, @WTE Podcast, Stitcher, iTunes, SoundCloud, on all these things.
Yes, and for now, thank you for tuning in. This is Justin Castle from New York saying thanks for listening, and we'll talk to you next time.